Okay, great. I'm going to also hit a little record to the cloud as well. And I think we want to welcome everybody once again. We are so excited to have everybody here for our Tradition Kitchens class with Olga to learn how to make borscht from her home in Miami. My name is jewishLIVE.
And my name is jewishLIVE.
And we are a daughter and mother duo. Wanted to make sure I said that in the right order. And we've been hosting these pop-up cooking classes around Atlanta for 9 months. And we're so excited. This is our second online version, and to have it with our wonderful friend Olga is so amazing. And so part of our classes are really about building community. And we'd love to first encourage everybody to be on video, and then also to just make sure you're muted when it's not your turn to introduce yourself. But we invite everybody to share your names, where you're calling in from, and if you have a favorite Russian food or drink, or if you want to share a favorite spring food that might relate to the upcoming holiday of Passover, or if you don't celebrate Passover, whatever holiday you celebrate. So does that sound good for everyone? Mm-hmm. All right, let's kick off the intros with Jessica, and then Natalie, and then Michael.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Grossman. I'm in suburban Baltimore. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a registered dietitian, recipe developer, cooking instructor, and yoga teacher. And so I do a lot of cooking. And while I've never been to Russia, hoping that this COVID-19 situation clears up, because my husband and I are scheduled to travel to the Republic of Georgia this summer on a food and wine tour. So we really have gotten into Georgian cuisine and Georgian wine, and we're scheduled at this point to tour with a very food and wine focused group there for several weeks if everything clears up. So I don't really have a favorite food. I really like it all. I do a tremendous amount of traveling. I'm really lucky in that sense. My husband is originally from Brazil, so I have some Brazilian Jewish tricks up my sleeve, as well as my own family's heritage and everything that I do. So I'm really excited to be here and learn from Olga and interact with all of you.
Happy to have you.
Thank you.
And that Georgia trip sounds amazing. So hopefully it happens. Natalie, tell us about you.
Hello, I'm Natalie, and I live in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And I'm happily retired, and I love to cook. My daughter lives in Israel, so I must have about 20 Israeli cookbooks, and I've taken classes there. And I kind of grew up, all my grandparents were from Russia, so eating a lot of, Ashkenazi Jewish food. And I've never made borscht, so I thought this was an opportunity. I also made my first challah this week, and that was amazing. It was so easy and so good. So thank you for these classes.
Wow, that's amazing. We're so excited to have you and to have you cook along with us as well.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Cool.
Hello, my name is Michael. I'm from Roswell, Georgia. I haven't really had any Russian food before, and I guess my family kind of celebrates during Good Friday. So our tradition has been to go to a local restaurant in Pittsburgh that serve hot lobster rolls. So that was kind of what we've been doing for the past few years. So that's about it.
Welcome. We're so excited
Thanks.
to have you.
I have to step away for a second. I have a food delivery showing up at our house, so I'll be back in like 2 seconds. So
no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, good for you for supporting the local creators. So let's have Margot and her mom introduce themselves.
Yes, are we good now? Are we on? Okay. I'm Lucy, and this is my lovely daughter, Margot, who you know. I'm cooking all my life. I'm baking all my life. I love to eat. And that was the inspiration for cooking and baking. I was in Russia last summer and had a marvelous time. We were in Ukraine and in Moscow and St. Petersburg. And I saw on the map where my family had come from. It was very exciting, but it was a little too far away to go. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Olga makes borscht. I knew how my mother did it, and it's kind of forbidding to me because it's sort of all over the kitchen. So I'm waiting to see what you do and learn something. And also, I would like to participate on your group here, and maybe make cheesecake or something interesting that would interest people.
We would love
Hey,
that.
Olga.
Hi, I'm Margot. This is my mom. We're calling in from Roslyn, New York, and I like rainbow cookies. Behind me, there is a red velvet rainbow cookie in the background. I also love my mother's cooking, basically anything she makes and everything she makes. Thanks for having us.
Yay. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Let's see. Alina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm actually Russian myself. I was born in Belarus and I moved here when I was almost 5. So I grew up eating Russian food in my whole life, and I've just started about a couple years ago wanting to cook it for myself now that I don't get to go home as often. So yeah, borscht is just one of the things I've never been able to try yet. So I'm excited for this.
Great. And let's have Golda and then Alex and Jake.
Hi, I'm Golda. I'm actually.
Oh, can you speak up a little bit? It's hard to hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Still a little soft.
Now?
Can you all hear her okay?
Sort of.
Yeah, let's try it. And
How's my microphone on? Can you hear me now?
yeah,
Okay. I'm first generation. My mom's Ukrainian. My dad's Latvian. Grew up eating Russian food my whole life. Love making borscht, but I love kind of learning how different people do it different ways. So I'm excited.
great. Wonderful. Well, welcome. If you're able to turn on video, we would love that, but we understand everybody's got a lot going on. And let's have Alex and Jake.
Hello, everyone. I apologize for being on without the video, but Jake and I are scooting around the block right now, and it's a bit choppy. But we live in Washington, D.C., and I've dabbled with all sorts of cuisines in the past, although borscht is one that I've actually never made. My favorite, I think, would have to be somewhere in the smoked fish caviar category, whether on blini or on latkes, good bit of sour cream. Although I do want to register just one complaint from earlier. I am from Maine, and the idea of a hot lobster sandwich just seems totally antithetical. Not that I've ever had one myself, but I applaud those who make that work, I guess, and I'm just generally confused.
Pittsburgh does things backwards sometimes, so that makes sense.
I'll take your word for
Funny.
that.
Have food wars later. Love it. Well, so glad to have you all. This officially Jake's presence makes us multi-generational, having and then it looks like we have Eliza from Atlanta. If you want to hop on and introduce yourself, we are just wrapping up intros. She might not be able to right now. Okay, well, for those of you who, did everybody get a chance to introduce themselves? Okay. For those of you who are just joining, we have a few people watching us on the live stream. So if I look to my right, that's why I'm just checking it out to make sure our technology is cooperating. But I'm Julia, this is my mom, Iris, and we started Tradition Kitchens to really celebrate the stories behind people's foods. And we believe in building community through intergenerational experiences. So we're really excited to have a wonderful group here and to be learning from Olga our incredible teacher. And I want to turn it over to her in just a minute, but it looks like we have Jackie and then a 617 number who've dialed in. So I wanted to invite you, if you could turn on your video to introduce yourselves. Before we get started, we all had a chance to connect and meet, if you're able to.
Hi, Julia. This is Eliza calling in from Atlanta. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Great. And we also have Jackie. Jackie, if you want to say hi and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Jackie.
Great. Do you want to share where you're from and a favorite Russian dish, if of interest?
I like olivia, and I was born in Atlanta, but my family's from Kharkiv, Ukraine.
So cool. This is great. And we also want to give a shout out to Igor, who is with Olga, who might be our cameraman or just behind the scenes doing some great magic. And we're excited and appreciate his work. And we might have a chance to meet sous chefs, David and Alice at some point, who are their lovely children. And your dog's name, who I'm forgetting, what's his name?
He's Quentin. He's securely outside.
Okay. All right. Well, let's turn it over to Olga to learn. And we're so excited.
Amazing. Thank you, Julia and Iris, for having me. I'm very excited to cook and to teach my first cooking class online. Super excited. I am a Jewish professional in my real life. I work for the company called One Table, and we host Shabbat dinners. And now we're also going to be helping with hosting seders across the country. But in my spare time, of course, I love cooking. And it has been really great to hear that people who have some Russian connection and not much Russian connection have their different favorite Russian dishes. I like most of them. I don't like all of them, but I like most of them. And of course, you know, when you think of a national dish, ask Julia what she thinks American national dish would be. I don't know, hamburger, mac and cheese, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's complicated, right? For Russia, I think it's pretty easy because I would say that borscht is our national dish, although Ukrainians among them will probably say that it's a Ukrainian national dish. But in this post-Soviet space, I think this has been this, you know, it has this cult following. And I think many of you said it, that everybody has their own recipe and way of doing it. And so I'm just going to offer one of mine because I also do it differently from time to time. And yeah, share a few borscht-related stories with you. Like Julia said, I live now in Miami, Florida with my husband, Igor, and both my children, Alice and David. And I was born and raised in Russia. We moved here as grown-ups. So of course, you know, grew up in a Jewish Russian household, and it was a lot about cooking and foods. And I've learned from the best cooks, my mom and my grandmothers. And I consulted with my mom, who's still in Russia, a few times throughout this week to make sure that my borscht is on track. So we'll see how it's going to come out. So just like I said, I mean, essentially, if you think of borscht, it's a soup. And I think the only actual ingredient that has to be in borscht is water, right? Because when you think about borscht, it's a soup that has beets in it. So right here, I'll show you, have some beets, and Igor will take the camera, but I'll show you the beets right here. They're really pretty.
Hold on a second. Hi, everyone. Switching the camera.
Here. Okay. Yay. So here are the beets, and this is the essential ingredients. And other ingredients are all optional. I mean, I would think that for my borscht, you have to have beets and you have to have cabbage. And everything else, I mean, I gave most of them in the recipe when I sent it over to you guys, but it sort of can be whatever you like. So, you know, the recipe that I sent you had peppers and we didn't have them. So this one is going to be without peppers. And of course, I mean, I don't think in Russia anybody used celery, but I like it. I like the flavor.
As my husband and I are.
So I would, you know, use this now when I'm cooking. Of course, if you know anything about Russian cooking, Russians think that if there's no meat in a dish, it doesn't count, it's not for real. But for me, so usually it is beef or pork-based stock that you cook in the beginning. But for me, this is very long process if I have to start from scratch because I don't like the bought stock flavor. So I usually go with just vegetable borscht, which is, I think, easier to make. If you so desire, especially if it's cold winter, which it isn't in Miami, but if it is really cold and uncomfortable, you can start with a good hearty beef stock with a chunk of beef inside, and it's going to be delicious as well. But we're going to be making really a vegetable soup. Other than that, there are different people like different things. One of my mom's family is from Odessa, so we have some Ukrainian secrets in this borscht. We have some stories associated with it. And I think that because it's on the vegetables, it should be a relatively quick recipe. So some people think it's very complicated. There are way too many steps, way too many vegetables. To my mind, it's not really a difficult dish to make or difficult soup to make. You're welcome to make adjustments. I'll tell you that we're going to be sauteing most of the vegetables first. When my mom is in a rush, I know that she just puts everything in a pot without sauteing or cooking them first. And it also works. So I think essentially you can tweak it. It gives you the fact that this is such a famous and sort of, iconic dish. It on one way it could be restricting or overwhelming to cook it. On the other hand, it could give you freedom. So you essentially, as long as there are beets and water, everything else is optional. All right, we shall start. So we're gonna start with putting a pot of water. So here is a pot. We're gonna add it like halfway, 3/4 way with water, and we're gonna turn it on to high because we need it to boil. And the other thing that we're gonna need, I have this deep frying pan with a lid that we're also gonna be using for sauteing our vegetables. And so we're gonna saute some vegetables, and we're gonna put some vegetables inside the pot to cook. So they're gonna do that simultaneously, and this hopefully is gonna speed up our process. All right. Because I grew up in a Jewish Russian family, and both of my parents are teachers, and Igor's parents are a teacher and a doctor, washing vegetables and washing everything is a must, even if it's not the coronavirus times. So everything has to be properly washed. Before I get to washing, I brought these beets because they're really pretty, and I wanted to see whether they have them. That's another good thing, that nobody really likes them as much. So even at the times when some food can be hard to find, I assure you, if you ever decide to cook borscht, you're going to have beets in the supermarket. So it's awesome. But it actually takes a while for them to cook. So I will be using cooked beets. I didn't realize that these cooked beets in vacuum are so small. It's like teeny tiny baby beets. Okay, but they're already cooked for us. So you can also use canned beets, which is essentially the same thing. They're cooked and they're in their own juice. So I'll start with these, and if I don't think that they're enough, I'm gonna add these. All right. One thing about beets, if you're cooking, they really have intense color, and it's gonna transfer everywhere in your kitchen. So I really don't like touching them. I don't grate them. I don't cut them. I put them in the grinder to cut them quickly without me, and try not to touch them as little as possible. So that's what I will be doing later. All right. But aside from, so I'm gonna be cheating a little bit with the beets. If you're using fresh raw beets, you would peel them, and then you will put them into your pot to make them soft, to cook them for a little bit. But I won't be doing that. I'm going to start with washing. So these beets, they're just for the nice picture, but I'm going to be actually washing the rest of my vegetables. I'm going to take 2 potatoes. I'm going to take one tomato and some celery, maybe 1 stalk of celery. I don't like it very much, but I like some of it in my cooking. So I'm going to take 1. And I'm going to wash all of them first. Okay, so we're going to wash them. My mom likes to remind me that she loves me and that she thinks about me. So every time she comes to visit, she brings a little bit of the cooking utensils. So this bowl is from Russia, from my mom. So every time I cook, I think about her.
From my mom.
Well, Igor's mom gave it to my mom as a present, and then my mom bought another one for me as a present. So yes, both moms actually. All right, so we have our vegetables cooked, and we'll start by peeling our potatoes, which, fun fact, I really don't like doing. And Igor will tell you that anytime we gotta cook, he usually peels the potatoes. And if I cook something, I usually just don't peel them. But for you guys, I will peel the potatoes. So while I'm peeling them, right? And once again, some people do not like potatoes in their soup. They think that they're too starchy, that they're not so tasty. So they, you can omit them. If you don't like potatoes, don't use them. Some people actually would boil the full potato and then smash it and add mashed potatoes to the soup because it gives the soup some thickness. I personally just really don't like, I think it's weird to have mashed potatoes in soup, and somebody suggested it, that was wild, but if it's your thing, feel free to do that. So what I will do, I will peel them. Okay, and then I'll cut them, and I like everything cut, more or less everything should be the same size because then it's gonna cook the same time. So I'm gonna cube it because that's how I like my potatoes. If you like them in slices or half slices, you're welcome to prep them the way you want them. Once again, it's sort of up to you how you like your vegetables in your soup. And we like some potatoes in our soup, right, Igor? Not too many though, right? Okay. So I'll peel them quickly.
As Olga is peeling, I want to make sure everybody also sees her amazing shirt, the borscht shirt that her mom gave her with the recipe on it in Russian. But it is so perfect and we love it.
All right, so we have peeled our potatoes to the best of my ability. Like I said, I'm not this peeling pro. And then I will cut them. Okay, I'll cube them, which is all pretty fast and doesn't take that much time at all.
And you prefer cubed because it is the better consistency?
Do I prefer what?
Cubed.
That's just the way I like it in the bowl, you know. So when you have all the pieces of all the vegetables together, that's how I usually like it in any soup that I make. My grandma, I think one of my grandmas, I have one from Ukraine, one from Belarus. So the one who is from Belarus, she really likes them like thinly sliced, but I prefer them cubed. Igor, how do you like them? Cubed, yeah.
Cubed is kosher.
Were those red potatoes, Olga?
Yes, these are red potatoes, but essentially it doesn't matter. I mean, some of them, you know, some potatoes are not very good for boiling, but whatever is good for boiling, feel free to use if you like potatoes in your soups. Okay, here we go. So the potatoes, they don't need the water to boil. You actually can put potatoes in the water that's warming up, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. Well, the water is getting warm actually, which is very nice. Trying not to burn myself. All right, so this is our potatoes. They're gonna start cooking. And the next thing that we're gonna prep, we are gonna start prepping the things for the sauteing. So, right, so part of the vegetables, essentially the potatoes and the cabbage is gonna be boiling in the pot, and the rest of the vegetables are gonna be sauteed. So I think what we're gonna do next, we're gonna prep our vegetables for sauteing. So I'm gonna take one onion, and I honestly think that any sauteing for the soups or any stews or whatever really needs an onion and carrots as the base. So I personally add them to everything, right? Once again, if you like more onions, add more onions. Some people don't like onions in soups. Some people don't like cooked onions. So once again, I think they're necessary for this specific soup. But if you don't like them, you don't have to eat them. It's up to you.
Is that a regular yellow onion or is it a
regular yellow onion? Any onions will really do. Yes.
Thank you.
Regular onion. Nothing fancy here.
And as Olga is chopping and talking us through the process, if other folks have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. Natalie, I know that you're cooking along. How's it going on your end?
I already did the beets and I did the potatoes and I sauteed all the vegetables. So I went up to
you're ahead of me.
So I thought I'd later put it together.
Amazing.
Okay.
I did use the food processor to chop my vegetables, and I also grated the beets that I boiled in my food processor. So that was good.
Yeah,
Saved a little time
that's very
because it's a
clever.
lot of prep.
All right, so this is the onions. I mean, it is and it isn't. This is the onion. So once again, I think Natalie suggested that she actually, and now Maya's watering. So she bought a bag of coleslaw, which essentially is carrots and cabbage, which is a great shortcut. I love those. Mine is that I use pre-shredded carrots because also I don't like shredding. I don't like peeling and shredding. So the carrots are here ready for me, which is super convenient. So we have carrots ready. We have onions ready. Now I'm going to prep. What am I going to prep next? I'm going to cut the celery. I use one, once again, because I'm not a huge fan of celery altogether. I don't eat it raw. And, but I like it cooked because usually when you have, once you have a soup, when you're making a soup, you use a lot of root vegetables and root stuff, and I think that celery adds a lovely flavor.
Olga, have you, if you haven't had celery, can you use the dehydrated celery flakes?
Sure. This is essentially for flavor. Whatever is going to add flavor, that's good. And obviously, in Soviet Russia, there was no celery. So I mean, growing up, obviously our soups didn't have any celery, but we had the white root sort of thing. I don't know what it's called in English, but we had different types of root vegetables in the soup. All right, celery is ready. Let's cut our tomato. And of course, you will know that if you're professionally cooking, that you need to add some hot water and peel the skin, or microwave it for a second and peel the skin, because the skin isn't the best thing in the soup. But once again, I'm usually what I like to call busy, because I'm not going to say lazy. So other people would cut it and then shred it on the grinder, but I will just also chop it in small pieces, and this is going to do. But if you want to be fancy, you should probably take off the skin.
Can we take the crushed tomatoes or the
Yes, you absolutely can substitute fresh tomatoes for the canned tomatoes. And separately, you need some tomato paste because it's different flavor and different color, because borscht as much as about flavor as it is about color. So we're going to use that as well. But yes, if you don't have fresh tomatoes, just whole or even chopped, I think, canned tomatoes, as long as they don't have any other, flavor additions to it, are gonna work just fine. But yes, as you see, some of the ingredients are white and other ingredients are orange or red, and that's hopefully, if everything works out just well and fine, is gonna be our big success of the color of the soup. And that's one thing that I'm worried about. I hope it's gonna come out nice. It's the same size as our onion and our potatoes. I mix the words potatoes and tomatoes in English, so every time I have to say it, I have to have a second to think about it. All right, so we have here onions and we have here celery, we have carrots, and we have our tomatoes. And so the last thing that we're going to prep here before we actually start sauteing stuff, and then I'll get to the beets, is we're gonna cut the cabbage. And cabbage, at least where I am, is not very easy to come by, the good white cabbage. So whenever we have it, we just buy a bunch and then we have it stored because it lives for a long time and nothing happens to it in the fridge. And I think half, once again, it depends on how much you like, but half a cabbage is usually enough. And you would then also chop it into small pieces. And this has been in our refrigerator for a while, but it still looks good, so we're gonna use it. So I'm just gonna peel it. And cabbage also, some people like it, in bigger pieces. Some people like it cubed. Some people like it sliced. I like to chop it in thin slices and then make them smaller, right? Because they're gonna fall apart. But I like when they're sort of longer pieces of cabbage in the soup. And I'm never sure how to properly cut cabbage, but that's my best.
Food processor.
Food processor, maybe, yeah. Natalie, did you food? Ah, you had coleslaw, so you didn't food process the cabbage.
No, I had ordered from Whole Foods this week and I had coleslaw, so I kind of lucked out.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Great shortcut. I mean, essentially, I think you can buy everything pre-cut. I know that they sell onions pre-cut, and if you don't have them, just like you can have dried celery, you can probably use dried onion powder, whatever. But I do think that we need it for the
Now I used fresh beets, so the watercolor is really pretty of the soup. You know, if you use the beets you're using, you won't get that rich color, will you?
When you can use what? Excuse me, I didn't hear your question.
I used fresh beets and boiled them. So the color of the soup is really a deep red.
Yeah,
Will it get as dark with, you know, the ones you're using?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out. I mean, probably not, just because, you know, all the beautiful redness already went into the water in which they were cooked. But there are also some secrets about it, and usually the secret is to add something acidic, and that's the purpose of the raw tomatoes. And also we're gonna either add a little bit of the lemon juice or a little bit of vinegar. That's the secret to use to make sure that that the color is nice. But we'll find out. And some people like it more deep dark red, and other people like it more red, like scarlet red. So we'll see, and it sort of differs from time to time. So that's how I like my cabbage. I also like to munch on the raw one, but like this is more or less the size, right, that we have on the soup. So I'm gonna put it all. Once again, it's not perfect science. Whatever works for you, however you like it. And maybe just checked on the potatoes, they're boiling. So we're gonna reduce the heat a little bit so they're not boiling out, and then we have some water left. Once again, in terms of the amount of stuff, there is a joke in Russian that borscht should be so thick that your spoon, your ladle should be standing still in it, right? Like upright. So some people would like it really thick with a little bit of liquid and lots of vegetables. While other people like it more soupy consistency. I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't like it too thick and I don't like it too thin. So, okay. I think we have more or less everything ready. Let me just move it over here. Okay. All right. So the only one ingredient that we don't have yet is the beets, but I'm gonna, shall I prep the beets? Yeah, I'll probably prep the beets now. So these are those vacuum cooked baby beets, which look like teeny tiny. And normal circumstances, they'll probably have gloves, but as you all guys know, there's not so much gloves now laying around, so I'm gonna do my best not to get too much on myself. Let's take that. And I have this baby food processor that I'm gonna use to chop them. Okay, and then we're gonna put it together. So, all right. So we're gonna open up the container, the plastic baggie, the vacuum thing. And let's see how pink my fingers are gonna get. One of the famous Russian fairy tales, they were using red beets as blush because the color is very intense. So if you ask any Russian who watched fairy tales growing up, they'll probably remember that moment. Okay, so here are baby beets, and I should probably here, very nice and red, right? Okay. And of course, everything in my white kitchen is going to look like the crime scene. So we're gonna have them, and we're gonna put them here. And once again, you know, some people like them shredded into teeny tiny pieces, almost that you cannot really see the beets. And other people like to taste them. The smaller they are, the more flavor it's gonna get, but they're less consistency. It's sort of up to you how you like them. You know, I think I'm gonna do the whole thing. It doesn't seem like it's enough of beets, so I think I'll probably add a little bit of the ready ones. Igor, what do you think? It doesn't look like it's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to touch them as little as possible, just because they're so stainy. And I'm gonna turn this on, and we're gonna shred them. It's gonna get loud. Be ready. But because they're cooked, they shred really easily. This one didn't want to shred well. But here, this is what it becomes. Okay, let's try again. All right, let's shred them. Now the bottom ones are definitely shredded well, and the top ones not so much. But yeah, I think it's a more or less really good consistency. Okay, so we're gonna empty it into this bowl. Okay, looks like this. I think I want to double the size because this does not look like enough of beets for the soup. That's how much I got in those little teeny tiny vacuum bags. So here's what we got. And I think I'm gonna add some more. All right. So this is just also, they're really easy to come by. They always can be found. So, and here we have some liquid reserved, which is great. We can also color our soup a little bit more. But because they're cooked, it's gonna take no time for them to be ready in the sauteing. It's gonna be our last addition to sauteing because they're sort of already done. All right. Anybody has any questions so far? Everyone? No? Good.
Oh,
All right.
I want to hear a little bit about, so you grew up eating borscht and you learned how to make it from your mother, from your grandmother. Tell us a little bit
Yes,
about.
let me do the buzzing for this thing and then I'll tell you all about it. All right. Alrighty. So the funny thing about beets is that I actually don't like them. I don't like their flavor. They have this sort of earthy and at the same time sweet flavor, which I really dislike. So this is the only dish in which I eat beets. And Russians love beets. There's a whole bunch of dishes that we make with beets. For example, we have this salad which we call vinaigrette, which is in English is this dressing, right? That's how much I think that's enough beets, right? So the salad is called vinaigrette, which is made with beets and other vegetables. Then there is another salad, which is really funny. And Alex is gonna speak to you because it has a herring. And then on top of that herring, there is this like really thick, and also Russians love mayonnaise, salad with beets and mayonnaise. And we call it garlic. And we call it herring in a fur coat because herring is wearing this fur coat of beets on top. I hate it. Like I don't like anything with beets, but borscht I do. So the funny story that I have about the borscht, well, I'm gonna tell you the story. I'm gonna turn on the heat on more or less high under my big cooking pan, on my frying pan, and I'm gonna add some oil, but not a lot. But this is essentially going to be all the fat, right, that you're going to have in the soup. So add as much or as little as you like. I like a little bit because I think it also gives it flavor. And you can use any oil. I have just regular vegetable oil, canola, but feel free, olive oil, whatever you like, whatever is good with heat. So, yeah, this much. And we're going to wait a little bit for it to heat. And we're going to start by putting onions and cooking them for a little bit. So the story about me and beets is a really funny story, is that when I was little, when our kids were little, their first foods were what? Were zucchinis and avocado and whatever. And in Russia, believe it or not, one of the first foods that my mom tried to cook me was a pureed borscht, was like a borscht baby food, whatever, for children. And of course I hated it. So it's not hot yet. So I'm gonna put the onion and the celery at the same time. So we have this favorite story from when I was growing up, from when I was a baby, maybe half a year old or I don't know, 9 months old, is that one night my dad walked into the kitchen and in the kitchen, it looked like a crime scene. Okay, in the kitchen, everything was with splatters of red. There was red on the ceiling and there was red on the walls. And then my mom was stripped down to her underwear, and there was red everywhere on top of my mom. She had red on her back and on her front, everywhere. And in front of my mom, there was I seated and spitting out the borscht as fast as it reached my mouth. I really didn't connect to borscht in the beginning. So in the beginning, it was me trying to stay as far away from borscht as possible, and then also staining everything along the way. But as I grew older, it became one of my favorite soups. And in my household, in my parents' house, my mom cooked soup every single day. So soup was a regular part of lunch, no matter what. And, you know, she would alternate a little bit borscht, and there would be mushroom soup and chicken soup and whatever. And borscht was always one of the soups that I really liked. And then whenever I would go to my grandparents' house, they would also cook soups. So both my grandmothers and my mom borscht. My grandma, one of my grandmas, doesn't like cabbage in her soup. In Russian, it's actually a different name. Svikolnik. It's the soup with beets but without cabbage. And my other grandmother liked the Ukrainian borscht. So I grew up eating it anywhere I went. And the funny thing is that in my household, I don't know about you, Igor, whenever we had a holiday or something special, it's when we didn't have borscht or soup. So whenever it was a holiday, it was like happy moments when we didn't have to eat soup for lunch. And whenever it was a regular day, it was always soup. So now it's reversed in my household, which is pretty cool.
No, she.
Yeah, so she is a similar soup, just without beef. It's just the cabbage soup. It's called she English. All right, so the vegetables are sauteing, the onions are sauteing nicely, right? Like really, when they become a little bit just soft, I would add the carrots. Okay, and while these babies are cooking, I'm gonna put my cutting stuff to the sink, because otherwise everything is gonna be really covered in beets. Once again, if you have gloves that you can spare, I would recommend using them, otherwise everything is going to be very red. All right, so let's see where our vegetables are. And once again, when this starts, like somebody said, it's a complicated soup. I mean, it's a lot of cutting, but I think that essentially once you have your vegetables prepared, it's just a matter of adding them to the pan, you know, to the frying pan, and others to the pot, and that's more or less it. And you know, the potatoes are cooking, so we can remove a little bit of the foam on top. And of course, if you have the vegetable, if you have the beef stock, you can also add the soup there, add the tomatoes and potatoes there. See, I mixed those up. Okay.
Olga, why are you taking off this top part of the broth?
I think it's gonna get cloudy, you know, because the foam usually it just falls down into the soup after a while. So everywhere where I did my research and looked at all the pieces of advice people give about cooking the soup, everybody says, if your potatoes get cloudy, take off the foam. That's what I do. All right. Do you guys like to eat beets and any other salads or dishes? I'm just curious. Anybody else like beets? Because I really don't.
I've had some Persian salads that have beets, mint, feta cheese. I've had it. It's a traditional dish at a Persian restaurant, and that's how, in small quantities, I do enjoy beets. How about others?
I like vinaigrette.
In a what, Jackie?
Vinaigrette.
Vinaigrette. That's the salad that I was talking about. With it has pickles, cut pickles. I think also boiled potatoes, right? Jackie, tell us more. I don't like it, so I don't cook it, don't know what's in it.
I think you can put, it's just like the potato salad olivia. It's similar to that, but then it's like a beet version.
All right, right. Okay. All right. So this is cooking nicely. Once again, if you have very fresh, this is our puppy Quinny. Quentin, say hi. I know you were not here. You were not helping us cooking. He's very upset. I know. He's a big food lover, so he wants to participate. I know.
He wants the scraps.
Yeah, well, he will eat anything actually. He might. So see, this is, they're all supposed to get warmed up. And once again, you know, it's a cooking class, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time and sauteing it, and I think that it doesn't need that. It's up to you how well cooked you like them. I mean, I think that the beauty of vegetables, that even if they're not 100% cooked through, they're still going to be pretty tasty. So, you know, I don't think we should worry much about them. So to my potatoes, I'm going to add now the cabbage and let it cook. Igor, can you please put it in?
Yeah. Where?
Carefully inside the potatoes. All right, here we go. You see, it's already much more stuff, but obviously cabbage is gonna cook and then it's gonna also shrink and let out liquid, so it's okay. It's gonna, but it's gonna be pretty full. Okay. So this is our, yeah, this is our sauteing stuff. Okay. All right. So after this cooks for a little bit, let's give it a few more minutes. And I'm cooking at like medium high. I have 10 and this is 8. Just as high as it gets. So I'm also going to reserve the liquid that we have inside the canned beets. So I'm gonna use it because I think it's gonna add some nice color to our soup. It's deep and red, and that's how I like it. Some people like the soup redder rather than more like purplish red. It really depends. Reserve it, and I don't need the rest. And also only cut one tomato. If you like it more tomatoey, and I've read somewhere that some people only use tomatoes for this soup because it also gives the red color, feel free to add more. It's up to you how much tomatoes you like, but I think one should be plenty for this one. And once you add the tomatoes, it's going to give you a lot of liquid as well. So it's going to be more of the frying, less of the frying and more of the sauteing. All right, while this is cooking, I'm going to talk a little bit about the spices that you will use. Once again, I think with borscht, essentially it's whatever you like in your soups, however you like them. I of course would always add salt. And I think the main idea of borscht, and that's what my mom said a few times, is that it's an original sweet and sour soup. So it has the sweet, consistent sweet flavor to it, a little bit of the sour flavor as well. So all the acidic foods such as tomatoes are going to give us that sort of savory, sour flavor. And then, of course, most of the vegetables in the soup, such as carrots or beet, they're sweet. And so you need to have the balance of those two. And also, we're going to have those acidic things because in Miami, we have a lime juice, not lemon juice. And I also have some red wine vinegar that we can also add, which is beautiful color as well. So it really depends. Then I'm going to use paprika, which is also red, and it's going to add us some nice flavor. We have a smoked one, so it's going to get it like a nice smoky flavor. Regular pepper, brined. I have a little bit left of the whole peppercorns that I'm going to use as well. I think it's a must. And in my house, the tradition is whoever finds the peppercorn in their plate, in their bowl, it's their lucky day. It's for good luck. So if you're going to add it, then tell people that if they find it, it's going to be for good luck. Then we're going to have some bay leaves. Also add a little nice flavor. And just because I have the herb de Provence, which are nice combination of different herbs, and I just like their flavor, I usually add it to my soup. But it's sort of up to you if you like something else. If you like oregano or basil, obviously, I mean, it doesn't come in the original version, But if it's gonna make your soup tastier, go for it. You can totally add it. All right, so now is the time for us to add the tomatoes, which we're gonna do.
And it looks like Natalie is following along at this point. I might see. We just want to check in our. I'm gonna unmute you. Oh, we can't hear you. Hold on.
There. I actually added all the sauteed vegetables.
Very nice. You're ahead of me, Natalie. You're gonna come up with a nice borscht first.
And I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Very cool.
So Georgia, I think somebody's going to Georgia this summer, God willing. It has its own lovely history of dishes, and I have never been, but it's one of my dreams to go there because I know that from the foodie perspective, it's one of the best countries to go because they have great hospitality ideas and their food is also delicious. So that's a different subject, but it's also delicious food.
Georgia,
the country. Well, Georgia, the state is amazing as well. I love the Southern cooking and Southern hospitality, but also Georgia, the country, which is one of the former Soviet countries. So we feel special about it. All right. Cooking.
Although my mom has a question.
Yeah.
Are you sauteing the onions and carrots just until they're tender?
More or less, like I said, yes, I like them when they're little, when they're tender. And I think that, one of the recommendations, if you see that they're burning too much, you can always add a few spoons of liquid from your cooking from potatoes and cabbage, right? So you can make them saute. But I really like a little bit of that fried flavor in the soup. And I think that because our soup is purely vegetable, if it's the beef stock, right, it gives you this nice meat flavor. So all of my flavor essentially is going to come from sauteing vegetables in oil. That's why I like them a little bit more cooked. So by the time you're going to add your tomatoes, I like them more or less softened. If they're a little bit browned, it's also fine. Okay. So one of the secrets that my family has about this soup is adding a tablespoon or so of sugar, right? I think partially because the vegetables in Russia were very seasonal and they might have not been as flavorful as they wanted to be. But I also think that the sugar caramelizes and gives very nice flavor in that balance of sweet and sour. So my mom said, if it's your friend, you can share our sugar secret. I think really this is the Ukrainian piece. This is the one from Odessa, from where my grandma was from. They would always add a little bit of sugar. So when I'm gonna add beets, after I'm gonna add beets, I'm gonna add some sugar. All right, now the tomatoes are getting softer. They're cooking a little bit.
Olga, I think our grandmothers might have been friends because that's also the secret for our chicken soup in our family, brown sugar.
We're all related, I'm not surprised. Yeah, all right. It's coming nicely. Shall we add our beets? Yes, let's add our beets. All right, so here comes the most wonderful ingredients of the soup that make the soup what it is are the beets. So we're gonna add the beets into the sauteing. And once again, that's how we cook it. Some people are gonna just add the beets to the only to the pot. They're not gonna saute them. They're gonna put them straight to the liquid. But I like to saute them as well. And once they get the heat treatment, they actually lose their color. So here we're gonna use a little bit of our trick. We're gonna use a few spoons of water, and see this water gets foamy too because the cabbage gets foamy. So add a few spoons of water just so that the vegetables are being sauteed and not as much fried, right?
What about garlic?
We'll add garlic in the end. I'll talk about garlic in a second. if you like Russian literature and Russian culture, most of our books are gonna have some borscht in it. So Gogol really had a lot of borscht in his stories. If you know Bulgakov, he also had borscht in his stories. So it's also so quintessential to a culture that you're gonna see it in most pieces of literature. So now is the time for us to add some spices. We can add a little bit of salt. This is, I like the coarse kosher salts. I'm gonna add a few pinches. And of course, once you mix everything together, and if you don't think that it's too salty or not salty at all, you can always add salt and figure that out as you go. Then I'm gonna add some pepper. Okay, and I'm gonna add some of herbs. All right, and I'm gonna maybe reduce the heat a little bit, and I'm gonna add some of the sugar. And I have a sense you can probably add the sweetener. It doesn't have to be the sugar if you don't need sugar, but I think, I don't know. With these things, you just follow the recipe. So I'll just sprinkle sugar on top of my sauteing vegetables. There we go, looks delicious. I'm gonna stir it all. Okay. And I'm gonna add some of that sour acidic ingredients, which are going to be, we're gonna add a little bit of both for the flavor, I think. We're gonna add some of the lime juice. It smells so good. I love the way lime smells. So we're gonna add some lime. And we're also gonna add some of the wine vinegar, which is deep red, and is also gonna add some of the acidity to our food and some of the color. So I do it when I'm adding my beets so they keep their color, because once they get heated, they will lose their beautiful deep red color. So I'm gonna cover it up and I'm gonna saute it for a second here. Okay, where's the lid? All right. Meanwhile, I think that this stuff is gonna be cooked soon. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna try to take away that foam that collects on top. And it's handy to have some of the boiling water nearby so that if you don't feel like you don't have enough liquid, which I'm sure that our pot is going to be very full once we add all the ingredients. But if you feel that it's too thick, you can always add the hot water to it, boiling water. I don't think we're going to have space for that, but that's okay. Right. So these are our potatoes. This is our cabbage. And it's going to take a few minutes for all of it to cook. So Julia, I'll pass it on back to you. And you guys, if you have any questions so far, the last ingredient we're going to add here is the tomato paste. So I've saved it for last, but I want it to cook for a few minutes before I'm going to add it. So meanwhile, if you have a question, I'm happy to answer.
I don't have any questions, but it sure looks delicious.
It smells really good. I'm sad that the technology is not advanced yet, that I cannot pass on the smells to you guys. It smells really good too, right? All right. So another thing, if you don't have anybody else questions?
Any questions?
Comments?
No.
Awesome. It's pretty straightforward, not that hard overall. One of the things I wanted to share is that when I was discussing the soup with Julia, I said that I was completely appalled by the stuff that I saw in American supermarket under the name borscht, which was
Olga?
blended.
Olga, your video is off. Oh, there we go.
I'm on?
Now you're back. Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks, Igor. Okay.
So once I saw the soup, it was this pink blended type of thing that was sold canned. And that's really not borscht at all. Borscht does have the ingredients, unless it's a baby food, which I disliked and still dislike. But one thing that I also saw that is sold in America is sort of just the beets shredded and cooked in their own liquid in the kosher section. And this is actually a great base for the cold borscht, because there are so many different varieties. When it's hot, we will have a cold variety, which is essentially you would cook beets in water, and you will shred them, and you will refrigerate that sort of stock, vegetable stock, and then you would just add, for each bowl or plate, you will add half of the boiled eggs, some fresh cucumbers. I don't think boiled tomatoes, no?
No, no,
Potatoes, no?
no, definitely.
Nothing, just the cucumbers, the green onions, the
Parsley.
scallions, parsley and dill, and this beet liquid, and it's a delicious cold soup. So if you're
Very
really
refreshing.
hot, or it's the summer coming soon everywhere in the country, I hope, then that's the alternative for the hot borscht. In the summer, Russians switch to the cold borscht, so you can do that as well. All right, so this looks really nice. Look, it's all cooking. It smells delicious, right? It has a little bit of that acidic flavor, smell to it, because we added some of those acidic foods. Okay, so the last thing, my mom said that you gotta move your stuff, and you gotta add a little bit of tomato paste, which is gonna also add some flavor. So we're gonna open it. All right, it opened easy. And I'm gonna take a teaspoon, and I'm gonna add a little bit of the tomato paste, this much. And that's enough. Okay, and we're gonna sort of fry it a little bit by itself. That's what my mom said to do, so I'm passing it on as she taught me. Because I think when it's fries or cooks, we'll have the food experts, so you guys can advise, but I think that's what's gonna give it nice color. So we're gonna up the...
Olga, when you mentioned the cold borscht in summer, is there anything different? You just let it chill in the refrigerator? Is that all, or it's the same process?
Well, like I said, it doesn't have any of these vegetables. It just boiled beets essentially in its liquid. A big pot of the boiled beets. That's it. That's all that you refrigerate. And then already in the bowl, you would mix in the cucumber and the scallions and whatever herbs you like. So we like with everything dill and parsley. So dill and parsley, and then half of the boiled eggs, which looks beautiful, and sour cream. The soup goes with sour cream, obviously. So in your refrigerator, you will only have the sort of beet stock, right? You will have beet and water, chilled, and then everything else is mixed inside the bowl itself. So that's the version. It's not exactly the same. The common borscht piece is the beets and the water, just like I said. All right, now we're gonna mix the whole thing up. Okay, this looks pretty cooked to me.
Yeah.
Better for worse, we're gonna do it. Okay. All right. So everything is mixed together. Have it a last nice look. Igor, give us a close up. All right, that's all vegetables. Okay, they look really pretty. They smell really pretty too. Did I add paprika? I'm not sure I did paprika. I did not. So I will add paprika now. Let it paprika it up. Okay.
Is it sweet paprika or smoked?
We have it smoked. That's what we have at home, and I didn't buy extra. But whatever you like. I mean, I think that the smoked is going to give us, once again, because it's completely vegetarian, vegetable type of soup, it's going to give it this nice smoky flavor, which I like. All right, you guys ready? That's the moment of truth. We're going to mix the two pieces together. So we're going to take our hot stuff, and we're going to put it, I'm going to actually turn on the heat here, and we're going to put it with our, and I probably could have done a better job chopping my onion. This will look pretty big, but oh well.
Food processing sounds like a great idea.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna dump it all in. I think that I'm gonna actually end up with this authentic Russian borscht in which the ladle is gonna stand upright. So a lot of stuff. That's right. All right, we're gonna mix it up. Looks pretty. Then we're also gonna dump a little bit of that liquid. Whoop.
That was from the beets, right?
That's the beets liquid, correct. I'm gonna mix it all up. Looks nice and red. Nice color. I like it. Okay. All right, and we're gonna let it cook for like maybe next 2-3 minutes. Looks very pretty. The color, Igor shows the color again. It's a beautiful color, I think, if I do say so myself. And we are going to let it sit and cook for a few minutes. And that's more or less it. So just like I said, I don't think it's a very difficult soup to make. And after that, I'm going to taste it to see that all the flavors came together nicely and to make sure that I have the right amount of salt and sugar and lemon juice, that it's the right combination of sweet and sour. Because I think the color test, I'm passing. I think the color test is all right? So now we're going to do the flavor test in a few minutes. That's more or less almost it.
This is great. Natalie, let's check in. How's it going in your kitchen?
Whoa.
Let's see. I think we need to unmute you. Hold on. Wow, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, it looks lovely. Rich color.
How does it smell?
I don't think her audio is off, so I'm trying to unmute you.
Here we go. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, tell us have you tasted it yet? It looks beautiful.
Because I had such a large pot, as I put more lemon juice and more sugar, and then I put some red vinegar, so I kind of played with it, so to get the sweet and sour. So I'll probably play with it a little more seasoning, and I think that probably, and Olga, comes from experience getting the sweet and sour correct.
I mean, it's all for your liking. Some people like it sweeter. I like it sweet. Actually, I like the borscht sweet. Some people like it more. Some people like it spicy, so you can add hot peppers if that's what you like. Some people really like it as a spicy food, and other people like it more bland flavor because sort of beets are sweet themselves. So to give all vegetables a chance to shine. So it's really, Natalie, is up to you. Whatever you enjoy, the flavor combination that you like. I just like a good mix of sweet and sour. The last ingredient we're going to add to the soup, so I'll prepare it, is going to be the garlic. And once again, there are a few different ways people add garlic. Some people would add the garlic into the sauteing piece. And I like it pretty garlic, actually. I mean, this is quite a lot of garlic, but that's the way I like it. And I've read a few people, when I was doing my borscht research, a few people said that the authentic way to do it is you're supposed to take a piece of old bacon, like old pork fats, and you gotta add some salt and some garlic and press it all together, sort of combine it all together. Igor is making a face. We don't really eat pig fat or bacon, and I don't have a piece of old pork hanging anywhere in my refrigerator. But my mom said that apparently it's supposed to be tasty. I've never tasted it this way. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my favorite garlic press. I'm going to take my garlic and I'm going to press my garlic right into the soup as the last ingredient. So it's going to give its flavor, but it's not going to cook. So hopefully we're still going to taste some of the garlic. Actually, I'm going to save this.
It's not kosher.
Wasn't kosher.
Bacon.
It's not, but they say it's tasty. I've never tasted it, so I don't know. All right, before I do, I also see some foam collecting here on top, and I'm going to remove it, right? Which is normal because we had some oil, so some of that is now coming up. Okay, but I don't like it in my soup, so I'm gonna clean it up. I don't think it's crucial, but okay. Good color.
Great color.
We're gonna now eat this whole pot with Igor, so he better enjoy the color and the flavor because it's too late. Okay, so now I'm gonna take the garlic press and I'm gonna go one by one. I'm gonna press it into the soup. You guys, some of you mentioned that you grew up eating it or your parents cooked it or something. Was the recipe similar or was it different? Can you chime in? How was your borscht experience different from mine? It's almost Passover, so how is this borscht different from your borscht?
I've never put tomatoes in mine. I don't think my mother ever did either, so that's different.
And that's also would be Ukrainian, actually, I think.
Well, she is Ukrainian.
So no tomato.
Variation. All right, now it's bubbling up nicely. All right, so I'm gonna give it a taste. Let me just stir everything. It's pretty thick. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of different vegetables in. I think this is too big of a cabbage. I'm gonna kick it out of my soup, and then I'm gonna taste it. Tastes really good. I definitely think we need some salt. Igor, will you taste? Okay, borscht tasting is a big honor, you know, and privilege. So. Yeah, more salt? Okay, anything else? No, more salt. Okay. So let's add some more salt. A few more pinches at a time.
Maybe beef.
Beef? I'm sorry, too late for that. Okay, and I'm gonna stir it. Okay, I don't think I added enough, but I'll put it. It's pretty sweet. I like the sweetness. I'm gonna add 2 more. And then if it's still not salty enough, we can fix it on the bowl.
It's always better for the second.
Yes, and the Igor is saying, that's another big chunk that I didn't cut well. Igor is saying that the way it goes with vegetable soups, and there is a saying about it, that borscht is always better the second day around when it's set in the pot for a little bit. So if you don't have so many people eating it and you actually have a chance for the soup to survive to the next day, which is not always the case with very tasty soups, that probably tomorrow your soup is going to be tastier than it is today. All right, we're going to give it a few more minutes. I think it's almost ready. And while it's finishing to cook, I'm going to share with you guys how we are serving it, right? Because the last piece for the soup is to serve it. And so soup is usually served, borscht is usually served with sour cream. Russians also like their sour cream and everything. So we always eat it with sour cream. And also with some dill and parsley. I don't have parsley, so we're just gonna add dill. You can add additionally garlic if you want it more garlicky. And also it's either, you know, Ukrainians, the Ukrainian thing is that you would have this Ukrainian buns, this little round garlic knots type of thing, and they would serve them with borscht. Russians, Ashkenazi Jews like it with pumpernickel bread, right, with dark bread. And also what you can do, you can rub a little bit of garlic over your bread. We don't have much bread at home, but we have this very nice thin crisp. This is the sourdough rye thins, which I really, really enjoy. So we're gonna do just that. We're gonna cut a piece of garlic in 2 pieces. I'm gonna cut it into 2 pieces, and I'm gonna rub the raw edge of garlic with my piece, and it's gonna be delicious, right? And once again, because we eat it with sour cream, for those people who keep kosher, that's also another good idea to make it vegetarian. So you can add, sour cream. If it does matter, you can have the beef stock, and you know it doesn't matter. All right, so that's our bread. Then I'm gonna take a little bit of dill, and I'm gonna chop it. And I like to put it individually in the plates, but you can also do it over the whole bowl of soup. I don't like it very much cooked, so I like to use it as a garnish, not so much as to the soup itself. But my mom, I think, adds the whole thing to the bowl, to the big pot of soup. I did. Our kids can also say hi.
Sous chefs are arriving?
Yeah, have a sense. All right, so we're gonna chop finely our dill. Okay. And I have a 4-year-old daughter, so for her, the soup, they don't really eat beets much, but she knows that this is a princess soup because once you add sour cream, it's going to be very pink. And the last, I think, essential component of eating borscht, or the way Russians would do it in the cold winter days, we will have a shot glass. We'll produce a shot glass. I have 1 table on. And you have to have some ice cold vodka. So obviously optional, but for the authentic experience, I do think you need it. So we're gonna do just that. And since everybody's staying at home, not driving anywhere, you can even more so treat yourselves to a little bit of the heartwarming shots. You guys want to say hi? Alice, you want to say hi? Go ahead. Alice, say hi. You people are watching.
Say hello.
I can see Papa.
It's okay.
Hi, Alice.
Alice is our 4-year-old who likes the princess soup. Not.
Hi, Alice.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
All right, so we're gonna take. And I like my soup. We're gonna do the bowls. I like the soup in bowls. So we're gonna. No, Letty. No. Let me finish. You want some soup?
No, could I put it in?
No, it's very hot.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take the bowl and I'm gonna put some soup. And once again, if you like it more liquidy, you can take the liquid from the top. If you like it thicker, you can get some thick stuff. Okay, right here. So I'm gonna go like this. Looks good. Okay, so mine is very, very red, nice color. Then, let's wait a second. I'm gonna put one for
Ooh.
Looks good?
Yeah.
Smells good?
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Why is it salt?
Because I was salting the soup. You cannot have not salted soup.
Alice, where's your tutu?
I don't have one.
Oh, I thought you
Not
always wore the
today.
princess tutus.
Yeah. But Papa has pencil.
Okay. And we're gonna add a little bit of sour cream. Let's move a little up. Thank you. We're gonna add some sour cream. And we're gonna add some dill.
Could I add some dill? Why?
Okay.
No, this one.
And
We'll
how
add some
you
lime.
have it, you will, that's the way it looks, the final product. Igor, close up. All right, looks pretty good. Then you will make it pink, right, Alice? It's like magic with sour cream.
I want one.
You will try it one time as well. So the way we're gonna eat it, I'm gonna say l'chaim to your health in your honor, right? I'm gonna have a shot of the vodka. Then I'm gonna have some borscht to chase it. It's hot and it's delicious. Now it's hot everywhere. And then I'm gonna have a bite of my garlicky thin crisp.
I wouldn't want that.
Delicious. It's really good. I think it came out really well. Very tasty. And now we're gonna eat it for a week with Igor. That's the story. This one has garlic in it. All right, that's it from me, guys. If you have any questions, now is the time.
I want one without.
Wow, that was amazing. Any questions from this audience? The one downside is we can't taste it with you, but I know Natalie cooking along. I wanted to check in with her and hear how it's going.
Do you have your
Well,
basket, Natalie?
I'm ready for dinner. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you. You know, I've got a big pot. I probably will have to freeze it. That's what I'm gonna sell. But this will be great. Thanks. I've never made it.
I think it's pretty easy as far as the soups go. It doesn't take a lot of prep, just cutting the vegetables and that's it. I wanted to mention that some people like to add mushrooms to the soup. Some people like to add beans. I don't, but I've heard that the people add. So whatever sort of, works for you, whatever vegetables you enjoy, broccoli, cauliflower, whatever, you're welcome to add them. It's sort of open for anybody to, to do whatever.
The best surprise was the vodka.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, it's a Russian. I'm surprised nobody said vodka is their favorite Russian dish, but that's okay. That's how you do it. So you're and as the stories would have it, is that you will have the shot of vodka and you will have this steamy meat inside the bowl of soup, like red soup, and the meat inside, and you would have it all together in those cold nights. And obviously, these vegetables are cheap. That's why I think that's the reason why the soup became so popular, right? That you can access everything easily year round, and this wonderful combination makes you really warm and comfortable. My cheeks are getting rosy from the combination of borscht and vodka, and it's really lovely feeling. So for me, this screams family. Whenever I think about my parents, every little pieces of the bowls and the t-shirt and everything that I have makes me remind of my parents who still live in Russia. And my kids don't like it very much yet, but I hope they will, because for me, this is the family dish. This is something that I associate with my family.
Yeah, well, if it's pink, it's a princess soup, so that's amazing. Before we all go, I want to do the version of a selfie Zoom style. So if you could, if your video isn't on, we would love to invite everybody to turn it on just for a quick minute so that we can take a picture of all of us and celebrate this amazing moment we had with Olga as a fantastic teacher. So Alex and Jake, are you able to get on video? Or Golda? Okay, no worries. So I'm gonna count us down. We're gonna do 3, 2, 1. And I'm gonna do one more. Thanks for bearing with me. This is like my favorite new thing instead of a real selfie. 3, 2, 1. Okay, well, I just, on behalf of my mom and myself, we want to first thank jewishLIVE for streaming us. We've had several amazing followers who've been watching us, and that's been incredible to share this experience. Olga, Igor, Alice, and David, and Quentin for sharing so much time with us. This was incredible. I feel like I'm ready to go cook now. Natalie, thank you for cooking along with us. And everybody else for joining, and your energy and positivity. It was really a wonderful experience together.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for sharing this with us, Olga. You are amazing. And I love your shirt.
Yes.
Anytime, guys, anytime. There are much more. If you ever want anything else Russian, I'm happy to cook.
Yes, and we have another 2 classes coming up. One, this inspired a friend who's going to make Russian dumplings. Later in April. And then also we're going to have a matzah pizza class. Not quite Passover yet, but we're so excited to be thinking about it, and with an amazing guy in New York who runs pizza tours. His name is Scott. So we have 2 men who are stepping up to teach. So we always like to have other teachers. Margot, you were going to say something.
Thank you so much, Olga. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
You got to cook it and send me the pictures now, guys.
Please do, and we will post them on Tradition Kitchen's Instagram and Facebook and make you famous. All right, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.